Good morning and welcome to the organizational meeting of Ulysses Town Board. I'll call this meeting to order at 8:15 on January 9th, 2025. May we please have a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Bouchard.
Present.
Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Mr. Botts.
Present.
Mr. Goldman, who is joining remotely due to extenuating circumstances.
Present.
Excellent.
And I will note for the recording also that as we have a quorum present in person, Mr. Goldman is welcome to participate and vote per state law and town law. Okay, we have a meeting agenda that was posted and circulated last week. I don't have any additional items to add to it. Is there anybody who needs any alterations or changes to the agenda? Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve as presented.
Move to approve as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That move brings us to privilege of the floor. There are no members of the public in person with us. There are no members online, so we think we can safely move past that. And that brings us to the organizational business section and the very large 36 pages this year, pages of resolutions, 34. And what I did is I grouped them by section. The headers in red can be grouped together if the board wishes, or in a consent format. But if there's anybody who wants to pull any specific item out, we can do so. The first grouping is highway DPW related items. Our highway shared service agreement that gets authorized every year. The authorization of spending of highway funds. These are unchanged from previous years. The sole source repair vendors for highway equipment. Scott did provide, he doesn't just need to provide, he did it. These are the last year this was added for the first year, and it has not changed from last year. And then the hours of operation, this is a slight change from last year, but conforms to the new union contract that we have, that our highway superintendent sets hours at his discretion, because Scott has found that they can move to a 4-day-a-week schedule earlier in the year because of weather pattern changes. And then vehicle benefit is unchanged from last year. Is there any issue that people want to pull out and discuss further? Hearing none, I would move resolution items numbers 2 through 6 of the packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, Scott, thank you very much for your attendance. You're welcome to stay as long as you We're happy to have you. Next section. The next section is items 7 through 10, meetings, media, and record items. Again, these are unchanged from previous year, at least the previous year, if not previous years. Date of meetings, again, the second and fourth Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Media hasn't changed, just the Ithaca Journal. The draft minutes will be produced by the clerk within 14 days, and digital versions are designated as official minutes, and that Carissa is designated as our record management officer, and that the town board will be notified of freedom of information request. Anyone want to pull any of these items out? Okay, then I'll accept a motion to approve items 7 through 10.
To approve items 7 through 10.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, items 11 through 14. These, to the best of my knowledge, have also remained unchanged now for a couple of years at least, except for the mileage rate. That's the only change. The mileage rate is based on 25 IRS standards. So the first item is mileage for personal vehicle use, setting it a rate at 70 cents for IRS. The second one is cell phone reimbursement. This is reimbursement of up to $40 per month for building code, highway superintendent, and deputy highway superintendent. The next one is petty cash. These numbers have been the same for my time on the board. Of $30 for the tax collector, town clerk, $300, sorry, not 30 would be very low. And petty cash of $150 for the court clerk. And then gifts to other parties. We don't give gifts, but we do recognition and proclamations of appreciation, and providing refreshments is fine. Anyone want to pull any of these items out? Okay, accept a motion to approve items 11 through 14.
Move to approve items 11 through 14.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Insurance items, this one, and I included insurance items, which covers all the different insurance carriers, our crime coverage, and mandatory review of all accidents involving property. Is there anything, Lexi, that you wanted to mention on any of the insurance? I don't think we've had any insurance company changes in the last year, so there's this.
It's within this now.
Yeah, and then the 2025 premiums is updated every year because those numbers change. I believe our crime coverage levels remain the same from last year as well. And there's no changes to the mandatory review of all accidents involving town properties. Anybody have any questions on any of these items?
Move to approve items 15 through 17.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Financial items, that brings us to page 5, items 18 through 22. Financial reporting. We'll do an annual financial report. We are having an audit, an independent audit done. So that allows us the extension, correct? Is that, or am I complaining?
No, because the audit is scheduled within 60 days.
That's right. Thank you.
You don't have to do the board audit of the records. And so the auditors are coming the middle of February. They're scheduled to be here.
So on the next town board agenda will
But
be,
AUD still has to be done. 16.
Yeah, the annual financial report is still due.
They're separate items. Right?
Yeah, the review that you guys do, say of the court,
Mhm.
which you'll still have to do, but we used to also do one for my stuff, but because the auditors are coming within 60 days, the board doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Because the auditors are here, so that's fine.
Mhm. No.
But yeah, I still have to have the annual financial report filed within 60 days as well.
so at the next town board meeting, we'll have the auditor's engagement letter to approve. So that'll be next week. Financial reconciliations. They're done at least quarterly and reported to the town board. You do them monthly, right? Yep. And that's when the financial report everybody gets. Tompkins Community Bank is still our designated bank. Zoning and building officers do not collect cash payments outside the office. That the town clerk's office processes all fees associated with all of those applications. And the signatories are unchanged. It's me, Carissa, and Mary, and the amounts have not changed either in terms of when things have to be added. Any questions? Okay, then I'll move items 18 through 22.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now the audit related to the court, we do need to schedule that. It does not have to be at 8 AM. You can do it at a different time. Is there anybody, we've moved it around, who's done it in different years? Is there anybody who is particularly interested in doing it this year?
I don't mind doing it again at all.
I'm happy I actually haven't done it for a number of years. I wouldn't mind going back through again. What's the time? We have to check with Angie quickly to make sure if something works for her. I didn't ask her before. Is there a particular time coming up?
8 AM any day or 8:15. Usually it's easy.
Okay. You want to see, well, how's the 17th look for you?
I mean, I just get it.
Yeah, it's on the ground. Oh, that's great.
17th is fine. She work on Fridays?
And I know there's no courts or,
Okay.
so Fridays is typically a quieter day. Thanks, Blixie. Would, this year you drew Liz and I, would the 17th, the Friday, the 17th at 8:15 be good for you?
Perfect.
Wonderful. Sounds good. We'll see you then. Wanted to pick a date that is convenient for you. We can be flexible if that's not.
No, that's fine. January 17th. Sounds good. Beautiful, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Angie. Okay, so I will move that we've scheduled the annual court audit for January 17th at 8:15 a.m. By Elizabeth Weatherby and Caitlin Olson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Gatekeeper resolution. Gatekeeper resolution has been going on now for more than a decade, I think. I pulled it out separately in case there was anything anybody wanted to talk about. Okay. Hearing no questions about it, I'll move to approve the gatekeeper resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, town board access to professional services. The town board members, I have regular calls. Town board members that require more of 2 hours of attorney time need to be routed through my office or be authorized by the entire town board, but town board members can reach out to the town attorney directly with issues. This has never been an issue in my time of misuse of services of either attorney services or engineering services. But it predates my time, so maybe it was at some point. Not necessarily a bad practice. Any questions on these? I'll move to approve items 25 through 26.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to items 27, 28, and 29. These are all the pay rates and pay dates. Lexi put in all the pay dates and the pay rates. And these were the ones as approved in the budget. And then item number 29 is time records. And again, this is I believe unchanged. The numbers in the chart in item number 29 varies based on what's approved in the budget. Is there anything else on that?
All consistent with what is in the budget.
Did anybody want to pull anything out in these items?
How does it go?
It just goes to page 10.
Yeah, 29, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, page 2. Yes, it goes through 29. Yep. Yep.
Did you move it?
No, I just want to see if anybody has, if nobody has anything, I'll move items, what did I say? 27 through 29.
Yeah, second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now this is only one item, as long as one is policy. It's a lot of pages, but it's 3 pages, but it's policies. This is where we sent you the links to all the policies, as well as we have some new ones that we discussed at our, I want to say December 10th or town board meeting. Did anybody want to discuss anything in here? And if so, Blixie, if you're to help us out. I only did one copy, but I do have hard printed copies.
Have a couple
You do.
from the board meeting in December that I didn't toss yet.
This is the same, it's the same,
It's the
nothing
same,
has
nothing's
changed in December.
And there's only one new policy, that's the advisory committee policy. The others are revisions.
And the only changes on the DEI policy related to cleaning up language. And so if anybody didn't have a chance to look at that, I can pass around a physical copy if you didn't have a chance to look at it, the electronic version. But it doesn't have any substantive change.
It was more about references that changed with the personnel policy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more of a correction.
Michael, you want to?
Yeah, I read it. Yeah, thank you.
Any questions or conversation on policies? Okay. Accept a motion to approve item 30 policies.
Move to approve item 30.
Thank you. Was there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mandatory annual training. I pulled this one out just in case anybody had any questions. I wanted to bring some attention to something that I extended the dates related to training. So everybody can join the town's regular in-person training, which has to be held by June 30th. But if the BZA or the town board or the planning board elect to designate an alternate date, they just need to hold the in-person training no later than September 30th. And then if people can't attend, cannot complete in-person training by September 30th, they can substitute remote options by just November 30th. And the intention with this is this resolution also continues to allow people that if they have a comparable, the sexual harassment prevention training through their employer. My assumption was that most of those can usually be completed, in my experience, can be completed by the end of November, so that it's an easy substitute. So I know sometimes I get that training offered in the fall on an annual schedule. So that becomes, I didn't want to make people have to take the training twice simply because the deadlines didn't line up. So it's hard to follow up with anybody in December, late December, because you'll be moving right into the next year. So those are the changes that were made to this to try and make it a little bit easier for our public officials and comp plan steering committee members to take it.
And I think we also are moving the responsibility for tracking that.
Yes, to the second deputy supervisor. Welcome. This is like, and off my plate.
Question for you on that?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
because a lot of those trainings do happen in the fall.
Mhm.
Is this, since we're calendar year and some of those are like a offset fiscal year?
Mhm.
Is it saying our training, like the training we've had, say November, that we have offsite covers it for till the next year or something, or?
So if
How are we
you,
doing that?
so if you had training on November 1st of 2025, you can just include that for 2025. And that'll cover you for 2025. You don't have to be in compliance, or nobody would have to be in compliance with our policy trainings until November 30th of whatever calendar year you're in.
Uh-huh.
So I figured, my guess was that most organizations are probably not doing regular staff training in December. And that should probably capture.
But what I would say is that anybody who, if you had training in November of 2024, that satisfies our 2024 requirement.
Yeah, usually I just double up on it. I'm just.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll
so
say,
do I,
you know, because, you know, what,
But if
an hour or
somebody
something.
doesn't come in the spring, they,
Okay.
and they know, they know they're gonna have training in the fall,
Uh-huh.
then they can just use that and substitute that.
Yeah, okay.
Because I do think a lot of employers do it, in that last quarter of
Like,
the
yeah,
year.
August,
or-
September, October.
Yeah,
that
especially
same
if you're
thing.
working for an academic institution, that's usually when they're doing it at the start of a semester.
We do ours Q1.
You do.
Calendar Q month.
Well, that makes sense for
But
private
I'm not
company, yeah.
academic, so.
Right,
Like
right.
that's our calendar.
And I
It's
do-
not
That's kind of what.
January
Yeah, and I
1st.
usually do the training, say in Newfield in November, fall.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just when we've done it.
Yeah.
So I just try to be consistent, but yeah,
Okay, just curious.
And we tend to do ours before the summer
Early.
gets going.
yeah,
Yeah.
before the summer gets going,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's really, I think, just as long as it's in our calendar year.
Mhm.
Before the end of November, I
Yeah.
think.
Because that's the one, the New York State, in particular, that's the New York
That's
State.
the New York State
yeah.
requirement, and so everybody, all employers
Yeah.
are required to do it, so.
And then Carissa, I believe this was your or did we have this before, the who's required to do what? I think that was your good idea to have this chart in there this year.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Oh, I think it was your good idea to have the chart in here about who's required to do, who has to participate.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah.
for doing that. I think that makes a lot more clarity. Good questions.
Also for the last box in the table, emergency preparedness, it says shall be held sometime before June 1st of 2024.
let us correct that to 2025.
Or we can just say before June 1st of this year. Every year.
Sure, that's fine with me. Cause that one slid through. Yeah, we can just do June 1st.
Let's use this as our template for.
Well, do you want to do June 30th? That would be in compliance with the earlier statement with staff training.
Yep.
I pushed it from, I think in the previous one, it was May 31st, and I pushed it to June 30th. Possibly, I can remember. Okay. Any other changes or questions? Okay. All those in favor? All right, so I guess I will move I actually don't even know what item we're on now anymore. Item,
31.
thank you, 31, mandatory trainings. I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, 32. Appointments. These are all, this first section, we changed around the, kind of the charts, as one of the things that we did and to try and make it cleaner. One of the things that we discussed at the December 10th meeting, and it's in our policies, now that it's just been adopted, it's what constitutes a definition of a liaison and a representative. And the liaison position is meant to be a conduit of information, but not a participant necessarily on the board in question. And then a representative is somebody who represents the town or the town board, more specifically on an organization, and that might be an advisory committee, but you're a full effective member to the extent of that organization or committee structure. So youth commission, Liz and I would be representatives. BZA is a liaison, so not a participant, beyond sharing information and serving as a conduit of information. I spoke to the village, and the era of fire department liaison seems to have ended. Nobody else has one. And we have our annual fire meeting. So they asked me why we had a position, and I said, I don't know, because we did before. And they said, well, it's not really what we need. This also eliminates cyber and IT committee Mary and I are both bowing off. The committee, the cyber and IT committee doesn't exist anymore. It was set up to help us with the transition, which is largely complete. The Chamber of Commerce position has also been eliminated, largely because they're not really functioning in any sizable way right now. So it's not a position that seems to be necessary at this point. So
Guess we can focus on that table first.
any questions? But the motion, actually, I'll move.
Well, so I'm
Sorry.
just on in the second table, if we're going past, we have an open spot for the town rep on the youth commission.
Yes, we do. Did I?
She's
Put
still on
Molly
there.
Kraus.
She's
Oh,
resigned,
okay. Oh, I'm sorry. With item.
page 17.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I forgot that we were doing more than just town board members. I apologize. Yes, thank you. She did resign after, yeah, this originally was done in the fall. Thank you.
So we have an open spot.
We do. And we've had a long-term open spot on the County Youth Services Board. So that's, we're additionally eliminating, positions. Michelle was, serving on the planning committee. And for the ITCTC, which is the Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council Committee. That is, the planning committee doesn't do any, they're purely advisory. The board that really does the work for that group is the policy committee, and Neil serves on that one. He's he'd be our representative on that one. So this seemed like one that was appropriate to let go of, because I don't think we have the capacity to add it right now. And then the Fair Board liaison, Michelle was there wasn't much to do. And a lot of the town's interaction with the Fair Board goes through code enforcement, and I think that those lines seem to be in good conversation. So it's just in that one. And yeah, that's. Thank you for catching my attention to that. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, then I will move item 32. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 33, Planning Board and Board of Zoning Appeals appointments. This has Karen Meter, who has been a alternate, I think for most of this past year, 2024, coming up to a full seat with the endorsement of Steve Moriali as chair. And Kim Moore applied for an alternate position, so that position would end at the end of 2025.
So Kim Moore is an alternate?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I deleted the alternate part when I did it. Yep, she's an alternate. And then no changes proposed to the planning board.
So we still have one alternate spot open for both the
Yes.
zoning board and planning board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And truthfully, we've never gotten to two alternates on either board, I don't think, so. I don't know if we should adjust to not requesting two alternates.
I think with planning in particular on this, after Rebecca resigned, we've been advertising for someone with particularly water
Right.
experience. So I think that would be good. If we could, she left a large hole in that one. So someone with that background would be great if they appear.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I think we've been comfortable on both boards with at least one alternate. There's been
Yeah.
functionality issues, to the best of my knowledge, in
Yeah.
years. So, okay, I will move item 33. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Committees appointed by the town board. I reached out to committee chairs, and they reviewed the list, so these are reflective of who's serving on them. Conservation and Sustainability Committee, Youth Commission, and the village also now has a vacancy for their representative, so I'm sure there'll be some recruitment going on over the winter. Habitat, Nature Preserve, Tree Advisory Committee, Bee Committee, Water Source Protection Plan Committee, Constant Comprehensive Plan Update Committee. We do have a couple openings on that with some changes. Just because, life happens and so we currently have a vacancy for a community member at large. We do, however, not have somebody from the BZA serving, so I've asked Niels at the next BZA meeting to be asking the BZA if somebody from that board wants to participate, because there are some changes on the committee structure there that maybe somebody would want to do that. We do have a couple the planning board currently serving on there. And then we do have a vacancy for somebody to represent the village. So we'll be doing some recruitment, more recruitment. I did some recruitment, but it hasn't been successful yet on that. And then safety and emergency committee, which is an internal committee. Any questions on item 34? Okay. I will move to approve item 34.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Fees and penalties. So, I've had a lot of, internal conversation. I've had a lot of conversation with Lixie. I've had conversation with Niels. I've had, Liz has reviewed these. I've had a lot of conversations with the town attorney. And there's been conversation, with the town clerk as well. And so the first item is new under the resolution, that we are seeing, and it's something that it doesn't seem to be common that we do. I mean, I think it probably happens in smaller communities. So I don't think it's an uncommon practice, but historically, if someone starts a project with us and then they decide they aren't going to do it anymore, we just give them their whole feedback, even though we have sunk hours into a project. And we're not trying to, we know people's plans change. We know that, things might happen, and we're not trying to be difficult or anything like that. But we would like to, for those types of projects, the only person who benefits really from them is the person who applied, right? There's no greater public benefit. And one thing that I have been strongly looking at in conjunction with looking at the coming out of the budget process and looking at town operations is trying to walk the line of what's an appropriate thing for the applicant to pay for and what's an appropriate thing for the general public to pay for. In this case in particular, we want to make sure that we're not, frankly, losing much money on projects that get started and not completed. So there would be at least a minimum $50 administrative fee deducted from the refund, because there's time and energy that goes into it. And if there are other costs associated with it, the town by law is allowed to pass on reasonable costs to the applicant. Could be a public notice, things like that. That's reasonable for us to pass on to them, and we'd want to recoup that if those processes have happened and the applicant themselves decided to retract it. And then moving on, this is the first item in the chart, relates to consultation and plan review. People stop by all the time, and I think that's wonderful. They're interested in the property and they want to know what zone it's in. And I think this is the exact kind of service we should be providing. But I think when projects become a little bit more complicated and you're going to need a lot more time sitting down with the planner or the code officer, that there is a cost associated with that, because it's going to be focused specifically on that property. And this is something that when I was doing some research, our plan is to do a lot more research this year to try and it's not just right sizing us with Tompkins County, because what I found in my conversations with code officers, with planners, and with other town supervisors is nobody has systematically looked at costs and fees at all in any systematic, reasonable way. And how fees should really be created is what is in a reasonable amount of time associated with providing this particular service. Again, that largely benefits only one person. Now, does the community benefit, community development and everything like that? Absolutely. So I'm not saying that every single minute needs to be paid for exclusively by the applicant. I mean, we need to be able to fund these positions in years where things dip and change. But having a good sense of how much it costs to provide a service helps us explain to the public, you know, the rationale for what a fee is, and then also pass on those reasonable costs to the person who is benefiting as opposed to the general public. And so that's a systematic, as we've added new fees, and I'll use Scott as the example. We have last year, we added a new fee for those folks in Water District 3 who do not want a remote meter on their bill or on their property. And you know, Scott we crunched the numbers. He figured out how much time it took, and then to do it, how much, you know, what's a reasonable wear and tear. And we have an equation that we can use and update as necessary as staff costs change, and we plug in that new amount, and it becomes a justifiable rationale for our fee. So that's this particular one related to consultation is a reflection of pretty much what it costs us to have our planner spend an hour, and that's not counting any administrative time associated with it also. So this is it costs actually more than $100 an hour, but $100 an hour seemed appropriate. This is what the direction. This is the city of Ithaca does the same thing. So this is not out of keeping with what's happening in the areas. And then as you go through 23, page 23, you can see where I'm proposing in consultation with land use, with our planner. Liz reviewed this, Blixie and I've talked about this. This is where I'm suggesting increasing it. Historically, to the best of my understanding, the town would just eat costs associated with projects. And quite frankly, the only way to continue to do that is to increase taxes on all of our residents, including in the village, because there is no fund, even though village residents don't benefit, because the way we do our budgeting and the way we're required to do to fund the B fund, there is no tax levy associated with the B fund. So what ends up happening is we have to raise taxes in the A fund to offset costs in the B fund, because we are transferring now more sales tax from the A fund into the B fund. So while directly the taxpayer is not paying for the B fund, if you live in the village, your taxes are impacted because we can't put as much fund in much sales tax into the A fund. What I'd like to do is drive revenue. Last year, planning and zoning fees were less than $7,000 in revenue. I can tell you we spent a lot more than that in planning and zoning. Now, code enforcement, however, code and building code enforcement, I think there's a lot more parity. More revenue is coming in. More revenue came in last year than we really spent directly for our code enforcement position. However, that also reflects roughly $40,000 of money from CARS for a permit that was 6 years in the making. So it's not really truly reflective. So if you pull out that $40,000, building code revenue is much closer than our zoning is, but that's why I'm suggesting some frankly larger increases in several parts of the zoning document fees, because this largely affects new development. This is not frequently impacting people who are already living and operating in their house. So that's kind of philosophically how we got to this point. So if there are questions or conversations that anybody wants to have, certainly happy to have those conversations. And then additionally, I wanted to note that legal fees, engineering, and other professional fees required as associated with these project reviews are borne by the applicant as well. That is something that has not historically been done. And so really passing off those costs, grassroots being a really good example. The town has not been out money for expensive costs associated with their proposed water district because we put an escrow agreement in place. That's different from these fees, but that's when the town board last year adopted a boilerplate escrow agreement. I hope to see more of those coming through so that if Dollar General or whomever is wanting to build and develop in the town, they are paying those costs. That should not be the taxpayer. And those costs get expensive fast. So, and that's in keeping, right, with the private sector experience.
Sure.
So I just have to make that change. Building code is $75 an hour for additional time, and that's really just sitting down and meeting. That's consultation. That's not when Mark goes out and does site visits, that's included in these permit costs. So, I mean, one good change that I think will actually be beneficial to the property owners is in on item page 25, the item of demolition. Demolition is now just a flat fee of $300 because I had a good conversation with Mark about what demolition review takes, and that it's those processes are there's New York State requires certain things to be done, like asbestos testing and things like that. And what our previous code reflected was that depending on the size of the building, one would reasonably think demolition costs for us would be more expensive. It's a bigger building. And the reality is it's not. I'm sure if we got to like some sizable structure, you know, there might be an issue associated with it, but I don't think there's a building in the town of Ulysses that would trigger that from my conversations with Mark, because a lot of it's related to being on site at certain points when certain work is happening and also testing air quality. And it doesn't really matter if the building is a shed or the town hall. It's testing the air quality doesn't actually take more time. So moving to a flat fee for that actually, in some cases, will reduce the cost of the property owner if you're in that position. A lot of the demolitions that happen in Ulysses are related to after fires. So that's usually the larger time when that work is happening. So it's not something that happens very often. And I would, well, probably no one is listening that or watching after the fact. I'd like to make it a point that New York does not allow us to control fireworks. They have to permit them, but we can't say no, fireworks are not allowed. That is actually something I hear from residents all the time, every year. Like, I don't like fireworks. I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't actually do anything about that. But you have state representatives who could. So, and then moving on to that is emergency services. So the village and the town are off cycle. So because the village's tax year starts July 1st, and ours starts, it doesn't start June 1st. Oh, it's June 1st. That's got to be hard to remember.
May 31.
May 31. Oh, that
Yeah.
stinks. You can tell I've
5
never
months
been a
ago.
village resident. I have paid village tax. I thought I did in July. Anyway, so I spoke to Joel, who's the head of EMS services in the village. These numbers are still reflective of where the village is. The village will be reevaluating. And so as we talked last year, they did not change their fees last year. But they are going to be doing a new evaluation. And I think this is really, really important. Rich was at that meeting with me in the fall. And our revenue is down and these services are up. The cost and we are passing these costs to the taxpayer. 40% of our budget is related to fire and EMS. We need to look at the reasonableness of the fees. And it seems best to continue to be be mimicking the village. It's very likely we might be looking in the summer at reevaluating these after the village reevaluates theirs. But we hope to get more revenue moving forward because we have a new billing company into effect in January, and so it's a little too soon to see what those numbers shake out. So I think looking at this again, maybe in June, would probably be June or July, probably July, because they're gonna have their meeting in June, their organizational meeting in June. Would be a good idea, because then we'll have some more data to help guide our decision making. Then EV charging, these are the numbers that were proposed back in 2021 by it came through CSAC at that point. I guess they were proposed in 2020, and then we adopted them in 2021. And then new in 2025 is the driveway permit. Yeah.
For EV charging, I mean, that doesn't cost us any more now than it did 4 years ago.
Well, I'm wondering about the electricity, because my electricity at home is like 19 cents
Yeah.
per kilowatt hour. And most other chargers, when they charge, usually it's around 45 cents per kilowatt hour. But we charge an additional 50 cents per hour. Well, it would depend on, how much additional, or how fast the charge is. I don't know how fast this charge is.
We're paying 9 cents here.
9 cents
Yeah.
per kilowatt hour. Oh. That includes a delivery fee? Oh. That's pretty cheap.
That's what's on the bill. It's actually kind of expensive. Going rates like 6 cents now.
For what?
Electricity.
For electricity. I
6
figured,
cents? Really? 6 cents? I don't think so.
really cheap.
I think I'm 11 cents.
Depends who you buy it through, though.
Yeah.
If you're buying green energy, then it's probably right.
So this is the
Well,
whole.
we have some solar though. Maybe that is offsets.
I just want to make sure we're covered. That's all I'm.
But I think, didn't sales go down once we implemented this?
Sales actually didn't go down when we implemented it, because what was happening prior to implementing this is people would hook up and leave their car there all day.
Yeah.
And then-
all night.
Yeah. And so we've actually had more people, but I mean, I will be incredibly transparent when I say this is a very time consuming item to delve into, and we are subsidizing it also. So I don't think changing the kilowatt hour is going to make a sizable difference. I'm certainly happy to change it. I am amenable to changing it. I think that we were in a 3-year contract. In the budget, we approved extending the agreement 1 more year, because unpacking that became, I think, too time intensive. It is something we need to unpack. I don't think the town's losing scads of money on it. It's not a huge ticket item, but we are losing money on it.
And isn't the village supposed to be getting a couple this year?
Yes.
They got grants to.
Yeah, there's fast, I mean, maybe you know this from CSAC. I know that Rick Darfler was involved in that project of getting,
Well, they got money for it.
yeah.
I don't know what the status of installation is.
So one of the things, and it's really if the board wants to pick it up, is how interested are you in having a deep conversation on this? What I can tell you, other towns are also losing money on the same model. And so what some towns are looking at is now going to a service that basically they bring in the equipment, they own the equipment, and you make 10%. They pay the bills and you make 10% off of it. From a management standpoint, that sounds a lot better to me. But I also know that a lot of time and energy went into acquiring this equipment. And I also want to be respectful of that.
Well, I think we need a committee to really look at this and come up with a proposal over the next few months, and because I don't think we're gonna solve it in this meeting.
Right. Maybe that's something the finance committee.
2024.
Yeah. I think we
Maybe-
should work on it, yeah.
Okay,
in the spring.
and
Springtime project.
so our revenue on it was for 2024 was about 3,200.
And what did it cost us?
I'm trying to remember.
We were under a 3-year contract and I don't,
Oh, yeah,
I thought it was like
We can find out.
$1,800
A year,
something like that.
so maybe now we are actually.
maybe we are.
Well, you got
Are we?
electricity cost
Electricity
of that.
cost.
That's true.
Yeah,
Oh.
that I don't.
Yeah, and that's a harder one to parse out. Well,
Oh.
we
I-
will,
Take their recommendation of doing the finance committee, taking it out in the spring.
You know, in the spring.
Yeah, no,
oh, I didn't hear you say that, Mary. That is a fantastic idea.
Yes, there's
Sold.
She said actually audit.
Well,
After the audit, that would be best.
Yes, that was a key statement.
Well, I think that's a good idea. I would also say that we're also, and Teresa's here, and she's gonna be leading point on gathering information, is that we're now within our 365 days of being able to interact with Solar Liberty on our solar panels. And what we'll be doing is we have the NYSERDA funds for $100,000 for a solar panel project that could happen anywhere, town hall, town barn. But before we go forward with that, we need to know how functional these solar panels are. So I'm gonna propose bringing in an outside, I've talked to CC, I'm in conversation with Cornell Cooperative about finding a couple recommendations for folks to come in and look and do that work to understand how functional our solar panels are, because we'll be at the point where we have the choice to have them just removed completely, purchase them, and they're gonna be like 14 years old at that point, which will, if they're functional, I mean, we'll find out, or continue or extend a lease. That information will be good to know, because my concern would be installing $100,000+ on the town highway facilities only to discover that they have a huge problem here that could be $200,000 worth of solar panel work at the town hall, and we didn't budget to do that this year or next year. We haven't done the budget for next year, but I'd like the board to consider those items cohesively. And I think looking into the energy associated with this, that timeline, if you could do it in the late spring, that'd be awesome. Cool. Driveway permits, a new permit, Scott, for you. Would you mind just quickly explaining why you're proposing that?
Yeah, because right now, we don't really have any, structure with that. It's basically people just call me and I say, this is what you guys need, and then they go and buy not customer, but the person that lives there goes out and buys the pipe, and then we put it in. So what I'm proposing is to get a permit, so that, well, number one, it can be documented. I mean, I document it, but it's not really, it should be documented better. And my time and Molly's time, we figured would be about $200 for the permit. And then we're gonna have the contractors are the ones that are gonna be putting the pipe in. So we don't have any cost to that, because right now it's our crew. I need a whole crew to go out there. The material, it costs the town a lot of money to do that. So I propose that we just we don't do that anymore.
Well, Tompkins County doesn't do it.
Will you do an inspection of it?
Yeah, well, I will go out and do an inspection, let them know what to do. Molly will do the paperwork,
And then you'll make sure
and
that
then I'll
it
make
was
sure that
done.
I go back and make sure it's done right, so.
Rachel,
So
what's your,
how much time does that take, Scott? Because what if there's like an emergency, like when my house had a sinkhole and we bought the pipe and it got done quickly? Is the permitting process gonna take more time and the homeowner is gonna be?
Well, no, I think this is just the initial. This will be just the initial pipe. If you have a problem, then you would just call us and we would come and work it out with you, or work it out with the customer. I don't think you need to have another permit for that.
For
Okay,
repair.
if you,
That I
So
didn't
what do you-
really.
So you're talking about new driveway?
Yeah, we're talking about new
new
driveway.
driveways, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
We could probably add that, just move.
Well, what about though, if someone has an existing culvert that they just need to replace? You mean you wouldn't do the work, I mean, personally, I don't think the town should do the work. I think when you're proposing this is mimicking
Yeah.
Tompkins County.
Yeah.
So I know that when we called you and be like, hey, we need a new culvert. And he's like, yeah, that's not my road. That's not a town road. So we called the county and we paid a county fee, and then they held a check for $2,000 in case we screwed up. And we paid a permit fee. They held a check for $2,000. We had a contractor do the culvert. The county inspected it and they gave us back our check, our $2,000 deposit. That was, I mean, we're not doing that
No.
deposit holding, but that concept is the
That's basically it, yeah.
Tompkins County taxpayers shouldn't pay for my culvert.
So. But yeah, the repair, I don't know. You have to look into that more.
Alright.
But I
See how
think
the first year goes and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
By next year.
Yeah.
Me too.
Repair seems different to me than a full-scale replacement of a
Right.
culvert.
right.
Okay. Well, and again, Scott did like I said, with new fees, he did the logic behind to calculate, this is how much time a normal one would take. And this is a reasonable amount for that. Carissa, is there anything related to your fees, or the water fees, that you wanted to note?
I don't think so.
Okay. Water sales, it's all set. An updated, actually, I don't think there were any updates this year. Carissa, is that correct?
Well, we raised the fee for water usage as we do every year.
Oh, yes,
based on
water
what
sales.
Town of Ithaca is charging us.
Was approved in the budget.
There were no changes to the best of my recollection to code and planning zoning penalties. A lot of this is built into the laws themselves and interpreted by the courts, so it is what it is. Krista, were there any updates into the water penalty section? I didn't make any.
Scrolling. This applies to Water District 3 specifically, and no, there's.
And then well, everybody's here, I can sign this one too, because we approved this. Michael. Oh, sign. So that's resolution 37. That's obviously has that was a lot of pages. Anything that needs to be changed? 35, oh, did I miscount? It's 38, incorrect? I
It's
must-
37 is missing.
37's missing, okay,
Yeah,
perfect, thank you.
It ends with 36.
It ends with 36? Okay,
And 38's on page 31.
my goodness,
I don't.
got
see-
lost in all the charts. Okay, so that was number 35.
And then
this-
38 on page 31.
And that should be 36.
That should be 36. Okay.
Yep,
6. And then the last one.
and then
37.
33 should be 37.
Okay.
Page 33, 36, yep.
I messed that up.
Oh, we can get, Teresa, would you mind making a quick, printing another copy of this one? Please,
Sorry,
so we
that
can
was my
get it
bad.
signed while everybody's still here.
I wasn't reading, I just saw. Under Mary.
Okay.
You want to use that one?
No, thank you. Never mind, Teresa, we're all set.
Okay.
Let's sign first.
You want to just?
Yeah. Yep, thank you. Okay, so, motion to approve resolution 35. I'll move that.
Second.
Thank you. any further conversation on that item? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. Item 36. This reflects updated cost. The one that we still don't have, to the best of my understanding, is Tompkins County Soil and Water rates. We budgeted $60 an hour. We were supposed to get the final rate yesterday. I've not been provided yet the final rate, so I don't know if it's actually even come yet. So we will, we're gonna, if it's not $60 an hour, we will amend it by resolution. I wouldn't be surprised if it went up to $65 an hour, but we don't know the strings are. Do you need Rich's, will you need Rich's signature since he's not here, or do you have to have it?
I don't know. I doubt it.
I think you probably should once he's back.
Yeah, once he's back.
Okay, Krista, would you mind, reading that one then to hold on to? Yeah. Thank you. And, any questions on, direct service contracts? The historians listed on here right now, we don't have the position filled, but, one individual did apply. And I heard from our former historian yesterday, that the county historian also may have somebody interested, and I had another person reach out who was interested, but then who was a very good candidate and unfortunately just lives right outside Ulysses, even though she's previously from Ulysses. But and I checked, and our local law does require residency, so that wasn't an option. And then part B of that resolution is the contract amounts that were approved for the different community organizations in the 2025 budget. These would be vouchered in March of this year. Any questions about anything related to this? Okay, I will move resolution 36. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. And then last but not least is the distribution of organizational minutes, item 37. And this is standard from previous years, and Fred does a great job, and we'll get our minutes. That's it. So will someone move
Oh.
item 37?
Second. Oh,
Excellent.
You move it, I'll second.
I think Rich moved it. Or did you move it,
Move it.
Rich?
I moved
Yeah.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And then there's one more, I have two more quick items. One, I'm hoping the board will be amenable to a very quick walk-on resolution. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Bob Howarth and his 12 years of service on the town board. I'm not town board.
Not the town board.
Zoning Appeals,
BZA.
yeah, not the town board, Board of Zoning Appeals, apologies. And so I drafted a resolution of appreciation where Dr. Robert Howarth was served as a public official for 12 years on the town of Ulysses Board of Zoning Appeals and held roles including chair and vice chair during that period. Now therefore be it resolved that the Ulysses Town Board thanks Dr. Howarth for his time, energy, and environmental passion in service on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'll move that.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then the final thing, the item under new business, is a letter of support for the Trumansburg Conservatory of Fine Arts. They are applying for funding to continue their building project. I would have put it on the January 14th agenda, but their application is due on the 14th. And so if we could support them in advance.
So moved.
Second.
So the resolution is to authorize the town supervisor to submit a letter of support on behalf of the town for their project.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And there is no member of the public present, so I think we can go to Rich.
Move to
Rich, you're
adjourn.
fine.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, all right. We'll talk to you soon.